So it's not for kids.
Another one. As the famous DJ Khaled would say.
Yeah. I'm lit up like a lobster, dude.
Yeah?
I went to the water park today, and I applied the sunscreen. But I think what happened was I got into the water too soon after applying the sunscreen. And then I went and sat in the sun, 10 minutes. And now I'm freaking toasted, and I'm kind of upset.
Do you typically get sunburn?
Yeah. I'm a pale dude. If I don't screen up, I will get boinked, and apparently that's what happened. On top of that, Helena had been home all day. Not home all day, but she'd been working all day planting plants in the garden. But she transported the plants in our van, and unbeknownst to her, was a fucking army of little beetles in these plants. So I'm driving the kids to the park, and the kids are like, there's these bugs, oh my god, and I'm just and they're climbing on me too, it's one of those things where it's you're driving, it's the car's swerving because there's bugs.
So the skin on your neck is peeling, meanwhile you got little beetles crawling up your nuts.
Beetles in my nuts.
It's like some Final Destination material right there.
It really,
You're lucky the car didn't flip over.
I almost hit a cat too.
Jesus.
That was unrelated.
That
was just
didn't. Okay.
Yeah, the cat was walking out. Fucking assholes letting their cat run outdoors when they live on a main thoroughfare. Crazy, man.
I just imagine that, the Mayhem character from those insurance commercials.
I was like a fucking Allstate commercial today, I guess.
Get your insurance.
Get insured because you never know when mayhem might show up. Skin peeling, bugs crawling out of my shorts, sunburnt skin, walking towards you, and then I'm swinging a cat around by its tail or something. I don't know. I'm trying to add that into the picture.
Some Mr. Bean energy. Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating insurance. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
And I'm your other host, Tom Bowers. Today, the featured topic is the wildest games we know. Did we do the research? We'll find out. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about some of the stuff we've been playing recently.
50% of the hosts did their research.
50% of the hosts did 80% of the research.
There you go.
But before we talk about that, let's just talk about some of the crap we've been playing recently. Kenny, you want to go first?
Tom, you and I played Sentient from 2017. It's designed by Alex Kevern and published by Renegade Games. I believe there's a second edition coming out or just came out or something like that. Sentient is a futuristic, your corporations that are putting out robots for different services. And there's basically two types of scoring in the game. You're going to be scoring immediately for the current round, and you're going to be getting this end game scoring after the 3 rounds of the game are over. Now, the interesting thing is the two have to be considered at the same time, but score in different ways. And I would say they're pretty significantly different. One of them is a sort of area control auction for these tiles in the center that are going to multiply certain types of robots that you get. The other scoring is the robot themselves. Every time you get one of those robots, if you manipulate dice in a certain way, you're going to trigger their scoring conditions and score a certain number of points. It's really hard to get your head around both of them at the same time, I would say. And I think that's part of the fun of the game or what makes it interesting. But at its core, really, you're just drafting these robot cards while also trying to influence these tiles.
I think this game is way easier to simply play than it is to describe to anyone.
Yes, I'm finding that as I'm trying to describe it, it's a lot harder to describe than I thought it would be.
It's a really simple game, I think, structurally, or at least it felt that way to me. And it's kind of what you're saying. It's somewhere between worker placement and a bidding area control thing on one hand, and then on the other hand is almost like a tile lane puzzle. It's just that those components are instead cards, and the things that they affect are dice, right? It has its roots, I'd say, in something worker placement auction tile laying game. So if you played I'd say Calico or Canvas, I think it fits that puzzly type of game. Mm-hmm. But I liked it a lot more than I think I felt about Calico by comparison in particular.
I would agree. Yeah, it lives in that space of score points, doing things, kind of chill, but also tense and competitive at the same time. But I think, like you, I would prefer to play this over Calico.
And it's interesting when it was head-to-head. I'm curious how this one scales, because when it is head-to-head, you only have that one opponent who you are trying to sort of outmaneuver with the auctions. I feel like that becomes way more of a headache with more players. But at the same time, I think you would end up focusing a lot more on one particular category or something, perhaps, and trying to square up your balance sheets.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have a different dynamic with multiple players. So maybe we have to give this another 3-player or 4-player shot or something.
It's quick, it's light, a very snappy play.
It almost feels like a filler. It's kind of in that weird furnace area. We're calling this the furnace zone. We're not calling it a mainstay, this is what we came to play kind of game, but it's also not really a filler. It's somewhere in between there. This is a perfect example of a game that I think is very solid, is very good. It's just not personally my cup of tea. But I would definitely recommend this game. If you're a fan of those kinds of figure out the different avenues of scoring and doing simultaneously, drafting cards, so there's some interaction but not too much, I think this is totally one that would resonate with you. It just happens to be that those aren't necessarily games that I seek out. While I really respected it and I thought it was a really cool game, it's not the kind of game that tickles my butt cheeks, Final note on Sentient. There's a picture of some guy that I can only assume is the designer on the cover of the rulebook. Love it. Such a dumb little include, but I really like things like that. They have him just in the back on a TV somewhere. And it's why is there a photograph of a live action human when everything else is drawn? I don't know. I'm sure some people would roll their eyes at that. I love the little things like that. So keep putting stuff like that in your rule books.
Didn't Jacob Frixelli say the same thing in Terraforming Mars? He's the president of space in the rule book.
That's funny. President of space. That was Sentient from 2017.
Okay, Kenny. Well, I've recently been gotten the chance to play Timeline, but more recently and specifically, I played Cardline Globetrotter, which is in the Timeline franchise. Cardline Globetrotters from 2013. And what's weird about this, Kenny, is that I can't get a sure answer on from when the original Timeline game is from.
Do you think it's a meta commentary?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, you could almost play a game of Timeline trying to figure out the timeline of the Timeline games. Because on Board Game Geek, it only lists the game that I think of as the original Timeline from 2013. Timeline, no subtitle, is from 2013. But a game whose title is Timeline Inventions is listed as being from 2010. And there's no timeline, the timeline from 2013 saying that it re-implements some older version. I could just it just seemed like there's a database error there or something went wrong. Either that or they came up with Timeline Inventions first, which I find rather odd.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, this is designed by the series of games is designed by Frederic Henry and is published by Asmodee. This is a trivia game that is dead simple, lightweight, and easy for anyone to play, and I think approachable for even people that aren't all that invested in trivia, because it basically boils all trivia down to one question: is when did this happen? Right? I'm not sure what the original game exactly is like, but I played the Inventions version, I played the Pop Music and Movies version, I think is what it was called, and most recently a Geography version. And I'll get back to the Geography one in a second, but the other ones live up to the name Timeline, because that's all you have to do is set the cards in front of you in the timeline in the correct position. So it's if it happened in 1986 and there's something from 1990 and 1973 on the board, You have to put 1986 in the middle. But you don't know for sure when it was until you flip the card over. So you're going to place the card where you think it should go and then flip to find out. And if you're right, it stays there and you don't draw a new card. But if you're wrong, you discard that and you draw a new one. Pretty straightforward, and basically the first person to run out of their hand most likely will win the game. It's like just very simple, very light, very fast, and I wasn't necessarily expecting this, but when I played the Geographies version with Helena, she really, really liked it. Liked it a lot. So much that she insisted we take it on our anniversary date we recently did, and we played some more, which I was a little surprised by, but pleasantly so. What's nice is that it's one of those games where it's funtainment or whatever you would call it. What's like the edutainment?
Edufun,
yeah. No.
Edufuntainment.
Edufuntaint?
Edutaint.
Is this anything? It's one where you kind of learn a little bit of something, but it's not boring. It's like, oh, I didn't know that, or whatever. Like that, like the population of like some particular country is like so much bigger than you could have guessed. It like delightfully surprises you, and then it's not like particularly challenging and doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it's worthy of consideration, perhaps, in your pantheon of the 100 games. It might be the trivia game, but at the same time, it's so light on the trivia, on the other hand, that like maybe not, but it's very nice, like filler style game. And I really enjoy it as a trivia fan myself. And I feel like non-trivia people can enjoy it too, because like they kind of get something out of it either way, right? And then they're not stuck forever.
I played, I believe, the Timeline Inventions, or it could have been Timeline, but I played one of the very first ones back when it came out. And I don't remember anything about the particular play I had of it. The overall feeling was like, it was fine. I enjoyed it. It kind of felt like an app, like a smartphone app or something. So I think it's good. Again, I'm probably not the right person to ask about these kind of things, because in general, I find games where you're just testing whether or not you know something not super engaging, because it's not like you can grow as you're playing. And I think for me, the growth and the adaptability, the flexibility is what is interesting in games. You can't all of a sudden know the date of something. You either know it or you don't.
Right. On the other hand, like this is the game where you would learn it at least a little bit. I don't know how much it would really stick, though, if I'm being honest.
Let's say you do learn it, then it's just memorization. And that's not any more interesting, in my opinion. Similar to with Sentient, it's not because I think they're bad games. It's more they're personally not what I'm looking for, kind of thing. What I'm learning so far this episode is that I hate all games. I'm a grumpy humbug over here.
Yeah, it does sound really funny. Maybe it's just because you're super jonesing for the meat and potatoes section of the podcast. 'Cause, like, you're just like, these are the dumb games. These are the normie games that normal people play. I feel like
I've been pretty diplomatic though in saying like it's not because they're bad. Like I genuinely mean that.
Yeah. No, I believe you. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, longtime listeners will know you're not huge on the trivia thing. I get that. I think what I like about Timeline is that you could create the same game for almost any topic. And if it wasn't actually important to having the timeline itself memorized for something, it could be a fun way to sort of test your memory and, strengthen it. If it was something that you did actually need to know for school or something. Yeah, I don't know that the timeline, like the game itself out of the box, is ever going to be something that you need that for, but you could just make your own flashcards to basically do the same thing. You could make a game out of this type of trivia.
Yeah. That was Timeline, Cardline, Globetrotter, Time Card.
Anything that comes in like a little tin box and it's literally just a stack of cards and there's like some kind of girl on the cover for whatever reason. There's always like an explorer girl.
Tom, the next game I want to talk about, if we're navigating the timeline over here, we're rolling back all the way to 2003. This is Domaine by none other than Klaus Teuber, published by KOSMOS.
Whoa.
Wait a minute. Didn't Klaus Teuber only make one game called Settlers of Catan?
2003. You know what else happened in 2003?
What? Don't say the Twin Towers. We've already covered this. That was 2001.
I know. I would never forget something like that, Kenny. Bong Joon-ho's film Memories of Murder was released this year.
Oh.
Ask me how I know that.
You just saw it.
That's right.
Yeah, I heard through the grapevine. I feel the impending aura of you going into a 20-minute conversation about this movie, and
that's I'm saving that for bonus content. Subscribe
okay,
to
that's
our
a good
Patreon,
idea. I like that. I like that.
patreon.com/shelfstablecast.
Yeah, chilling out. I like it. Okay. Domaine. What can I say about this game? I've heard this touted as Klaus Teuber's best game. I would say that Klaus Teuber has a pretty good track record. He has a number of interesting games. Talking about Wildest games, he has this one called Barbarossa that won the Spiel.
Yeah, that's the clay one.
Domaine is a area control game. If you drew the borders of different sections on a chessboard, and then you had cards that allowed you to take more of those borders from your opponent. The way it represents these borders is with these little, they're almost like the Agricola, your little fences, but they're made out of plastic and they look more like stones or something. And they amorphously grow. Like one thing that was a little unintuitive to us is when you go and you expand your domain, it's not like you add a certain number of these fences. You pick a square that's along your border that becomes part of your border, and you update the border with however many stones you need, whether that's more or less, to go and fill in that section to represent that it's part of your domain now. And for some reason, this really, we had a hard time wrapping our heads around. Everyone at the table kind of struggled. The gameplay itself was really good, though. I think this game has teeth. It really held up, and I was kind of impressed that this is a 2003 design. Not only that, but also a design that we don't really hear about too often nowadays. What I think is most interesting about this game is how it plays with its different mechanics. There are knights that you can place out, and the knights allow you to get the strength needed to assert your domain or actually start and take other pieces. But at the same time, if you're building knights, you're not expanding your domain. And, on top of that, you need to establish new domains by building fences. So there's all this rock, paper, scissory stuff going on where you're building the knights. But if you build the knights, you're not taking area. And if you are taking area that you're getting bullied by people who are expanding their domain. And if people are expanding their domain, they're not able to go into you if you have more knights. Add to that a kind of interesting action selection system, where you either play a card to trigger one of those things that I just said, or you discard a card for money, and the money is used to pay for using those different cards. I was pleased with this. The curiosity in all this is that I don't want to play it again.
Right.
So this is a flip on the shelf-stable structure. Usually we'll shit on something for a good 5 minutes and then say, but it was good. This is kind of the opposite. I've just put all these compliments out about Domaine, and now I'm saying I don't want to play it again. And it's not because it wasn't a good game, but it's because of me feeling like it didn't leave me with anything left to be explored. So I guess what I'm ultimately saying is I highly recommend playing this game once. And if you end up loving it, then play it more times. But it's a one and done kind of deal for me. I came out of the game being like, that was cool, but not getting that hook or feeling like a level of closure that maybe is not necessarily a good thing for a game. There's something to the variability of games that wasn't here for this one. Because in my mind, there's two types of variability. There's different combinatorics. There's different options for setting up the game that create interesting setups. This is what you see a lot in modern designs. And then you have the Knizia variability, which is even if there isn't that much difference every time the game gets set up, the players kind of affect how things go. Mm-hmm. I think Domain lands more in that latter category, but somehow it didn't give me that feeling of ooh, let's go again,
Yeah, it just doesn't have this thing where player actions spiral in a way where you're interested to see what you could have done differently to affect the chaos. With most of them, I'm trying to think Samurai in particular. you can learn a heuristic that creates an edge, and then you want to apply that heuristic. And then, at least for me, it's like if I lose, I want to either re-examine that heuristic or like I might want to try and apply it differently, right? But if I win, I go, okay, but did the heuristic itself work or was that a fluke, you know? And so you're always sort of testing what you think you know about the game in those titles.
Whether it's valid or not, the game is giving me the impression that I've explored its heuristics already. Maybe that's a good way to summarize. Because I think you're right. I think that's what the key to the replayability is, feeling like there are those things to be explored and they can affect your performance in the game. Mm. You know what it might be is just it's me being presumptuous and there is a lot of depth there. But if anything, just the fact that the game has given me that impression right off the bat, I don't think that's a me thing necessarily. Like, I think for the game to give me that feeling is probably a bit of a red flag.
In a way, yeah.
I feel like I owe it to play this game a second time just to see if my feelings are valid or not.
Interesting.
And maybe you and I play it so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. And maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe you're like, this game has teeth, you know?
This game fucks. It's funny, I guess you're on theme this week because I think you said almost the same thing about Sentient. Where you're like, I feel like I owe this another try, maybe at a different player count. But kind of like I felt like I figured out everything there was to figure out with it.
No, I don't think I said that about Sentient. For Sentient, it was like, I feel like it's a really good game. It's just not the kind of game I usually like. Oh, that's different than Domaine. Domaine is the kind of game I like, and I think it's solid. I just wasn't left like, I want to explore the other aspects of the puzzle and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Despite preferring Domaine, I'd rather replay Sentient.
Huh.
I didn't expect this episode to be so introspective, especially in like the games we played section, but here we are, you know?
Yeah. Either that or you're just stalling.
Domaine from 2003.
Well, Kenny, interesting title. I'll happily play it with you. I am curious about Klaus's other designs. We're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about Lords of Waterdeep from 2012. This is designed by Peter Lee and Rodney Thompson and published by Wizards of the Coast, as it is part of the Dungeons & Dragons universe, but you don't need to know jack shit about Dungeons & Dragons to be able to play this game. It is a worker placement strategy game where your workers turn some of your cubes into other cubes. Once you have the exact lineup of cubes that you need, you can complete a quest, and you repeat that ad nauseum. And I still don't fully understand it, but people love this fucking game. This was not my first time playing it. I remember the first time I played it, and I went, that was like the most cube-pushing extreme game I've ever played. And then recently, like, I had that statement, and people were like, okay, hold on, though. Lords of Waterdeep, I fucking like cream my pants thinking about this game. And I'm like, okay, maybe I missed something. Let me try it again. And I was like, that was cube pushing extreme. Like I'll admit there's more going on to it than that, but not like that much more. I don't know. I wonder if like mostly I just feel like I'm bad at this and I find it frustrating to be bad at a game when everyone who will play it with me is like, it's their favorite game. But I just am like, what is with this game that is like so cool to people? Because do you know what I mean? Like, you've played this. So
I'm sorry to do this live with you, Tom, but I'm part of the camp of I really enjoy this game and I'm creaming my pants or whatever.
So explain what you think I'm missing. It's like sell me on the game.
I'm scratching my head because I do not associate this with cube pushing.
What's cube pushing to you?
Cube pushing is like Res Arcana, where you convert one thing into another. Or like Furnace. We were just talking about Furnace. In my mind, Lords of Waterdeep is a contract fulfillment game. So you gather a bunch of cubes and you turn them in for points. Yeah,
okay, you have a point there. There's not that much like turning cubes and other cubes. You have a point. Yeah, that doesn't happen that much.
The best way I can summarize...
But you turn your fucking workers into cubes. It's just like, oh, okay, I need to collect this, and this cube. I will go here to collect the relevant cubes.
Yeah, I think the best way I can summarize Waterdeep is that it's a very well executed, distilled version of a lot of other, I would say, more complex worker placement Euros. And so it gets rid of a lot of chaff. I mean, we love to talk about Le Havre. If you think about Le Havre, it's Waterdeep with extra steps. And I guess what I'm understanding is you don't like it when the illusion of the extra stuff is removed.
Okay, maybe you're onto something here. I will say, though, actually, maybe that is what's missing, because now you've pointed out that there's no actual exchange of cubes, or at least there's very little of it. It's a perfectly
fair thing to say that, like, I don't like Waterdeep because it's like way too straightforward. It's like you just do one thing into the other. And I think that's a fair argument to make.
Yeah, like you just get the same 4 decisions every game, which is like, where the fuck am I going to place my Schmeeples, you know? And I'm not saying it's like completely uninteresting or like I refuse to play this with people. Like it's totally like the epitomal 7 in my mind.
Yeah. It's funny because like I'm always complaining about how long games are. Waterdeep can be pretty long, but I have no problem playing it for that length because I feel engaged the whole time.
It comes back to your turn. Yeah.
The same reason it doesn't have a lot of depth also results in it being a really breezy kind of light game. And that's what I really like about it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just fun the whole time. It's just serotonin. I gotta stop saying that. It's just dopamine.
I feel like that's almost what I don't like about it. It's just like, it's so nothing burger that for you to have gone through like 3 hours of your life having played it doesn't take that long. For you to have gone like 90 minutes of your life playing Lords of Waterdeep, you just went like, wow, I just drank some water, the game. Like, it's like there's no
like
texture,
me right now.
There's no flavor to it. Like, you got me there, but like there's something about the puzzle and the vibe I think that Le Havre has, and maybe it's just that I'm not like immersed enough in the D&D
Yeah, it
lore.
might be a theme thing too, yeah.
But like even if you knew the theme, it's just like, why am I assembling like 2 rogues, a wizard, you know, and these guys to, like, you know,
I think that's part of the funny thing, right? Like you are this like lord who doesn't give a shit about anything, and you like you're like, just throw 4 warriors at this, you know, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Some of you may die. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's implied that they're not coming back. I mean, the reason you're trading them in is because like
they'll go take care of Latinam or whatever his name was. Yeah.
If a contract gives you points and some cubes, it's implied that those are the trauma-induced warriors coming back from their fight, the only ones that survived, you know?
It is funny if you think of the meta of the context of the resources.
There's something very humorous and sadistic about the resources being people. You're either going to not engage with that or get a little kick out of it.
It's rogues, wizards, clerics, and warriors?
Yeah, I think so.
Where's the bard rep, am I right?
Probably some expansion.
Bard representation, Lords of Waterdeep now.
The thing with bards, just as a quick aside, is like you don't really need them, you know? It's kind of like when you already have 4 people in the group and you're like, we don't need 2 of something. I hope we get a ton
of flames in the comments for this one.
I'm not talking about bards in the like stats, you know, I'm talking like flavor wise. You don't need a bard.
Kenny, how you have never been on an epic quest without someone there who's willing to play and sing music for you, okay? Like, you need the morale.
Look, I'm a musician. You don't need a musician to go fight the dragon.
Right. You're like, trust me, I'm useless. I know it.
I know it. I love to tell people, oh, you're going to love this or you're not going to love this game. Like, I could have told you that you wouldn't like Lords of Waterdeep. between the theme and the straightforwardness, like you like complexity. You like when things kind of like interconnect and push. So I'm really not surprised. But personally, I think this game's a delight. I really enjoy it. And I'm once in a while, I'll get a craving for a game of Waterdeep.
Well, don't get it twisted. I don't think I'm going to ever like sit out on it per se. I think this beats out a decent number of games. And I think it's kind of for the reason you said, where it's like, it's simple and straightforward and you know what you're in for, basically. Yeah. I don't know. It's like eating at Arby's, I guess. Just like, I can tolerate it.
You heard it here. Waterdeep, the Arby's board game.
Every once in a while, it sounds like it might actually be a good time. It might lead to a good time somehow.
All right. That is Waterdeep from 2012.
100 games to play before you die.
All right, Kenny, it's time for that part of the podcast where we work our way through this list of 100 games that you came up with that everybody in the world, every single one of them, needs to find the time to get around to playing before they hit 100 years old, before they die, whichever comes first. And game number 34 on this list is none other than Parks from 2019, designed by Henry Audubon and published by Keymaster. Kenny, why the frick is this game on the list?
You know what's crazy about this game?
Yeah.
It's called Parks, not a single car. I don't understand what we're parking. Are we parking the bear? Are we parking the trees? Doesn't make any sense.
Boom, roasted.
Parks 2019. This is my selection for the cozy slot of the list. We love to talk about cozy games here, and the cozy invasion.
Famously.
This ticks all the boxes, right? Nature theme, slightly interactive, but mostly you can do your own thing and people can't hurt you. Completing contracts, getting points in various ways. Pretty easy to teach. Very beautiful, scenic. Just kind of a nice stroll in the park. No pun intended. You basically have your two little people and you go along a passage. A little bit like Tokaido. As you go around, you get these little benefits, and those benefits are going to give you points. I think this game is quaint. Again, going back to the theme of this podcast, which is not for me, apparently, even though we did an episode about that. Parks isn't going to be the first game I pick off of the shelf, but if you're giving me an option between Parks and Calico and Tokaido and a bunch of these other kind of like chill, let's score some points and have some fun things happen to us, I'm probably going to pick Parks. Parks is one of the more interesting ones without adding any sort of like rules overhead. And it also just has beautiful, beautiful art. I'm kind of a sucker for the first edition. I'm not as big on the second edition, even though the second edition has cooler components. I think the art is just really beautiful on the first one.
This is the ultimate point salad and chill game.
Yeah. This the other reason I picked Parks as opposed to some of the other ones is this is one of the unique ones where it plays really well at 2, but also doesn't take too long at 4. And I think that's remarkable and kind of a nice aspect of it. Yeah, granted, your players still have to be on their toes as far as it being their turn and things like that, and not just like think about every option, but like I find that it goes at a pretty brisk pace. So yeah, if you are a fan of these kind of nature-y point games and you haven't played Parks, do yourself a service and try it out. And if this sounds like the kind of game you would like, this or any other I mentioned is going to be a great gateway into a whole part of the community, a whole part of the board gaming. So
yeah, the cozy side where they take care of you and have like hygge parties or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever Tom said.
The parties are not invited to. As try-hard, sweaty noobs. Are we noobs?
Are we noobs?
Are we noobs?
No, you're either a noob or a gatekeeper, and I feel like we're more of a gatekeeper, right?
The dichotomy of man, noob or gatekeeper. Is this the only thing you can be?
Yeah. Sometimes you could be both.
Okay. That's good. Wait, you can be a noob and a gatekeeper?
Oh, for sure.
But you're not to me it sounds almost like you can't actually keep the gate, you know?
No, I'll give you an example. Oh, you're still playing Cards Against Humanity? I play Dominion. Hasn't played a Lacerda. You know, like
yeah, like I love the arms folded, just like Cards Against Humanity's got nothing on Dominion. Clueless. They've never heard of mushroom eaters. This is a perfect segue.
Yeah. The rabbit hole just keeps going.
Let's do it, Kenny. Let's just get into the real meat and potatoes of the episode. No rant this time. We're jumping straight in. The wildest games we know. What are they?
Whoa, that was a pretty wild intro for Tom. It's like he's embracing the theme. So we're going to say some stuff, and there's either going to be people who are like, wah, wah, wah. And then there's going to be other people who are like, ooh, I knew about that game when I came out of the womb. That's not even a weird game. So you know what? Keep your stupid comments in your pocket. This is what we consider to be the weirdest, wildest games we know. And maybe that's too weird, or maybe that's not weird enough.
Kenny, you forget the first rule of engagement on social media is to not keep your stupid comments in your pocket. Put your stupid comments on the video. The stupider, the better, in my experience.
Direct all your complaints to Thomas Bowers. What's your blue sky?
Tom Bowers.
Yeah, there you go. At Tom Bowers. Here are my complaints about the latest episode. There you go.
It'd be really funny if there's someone else on Blue Sky that's at Tom Bowers. It's not me. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm at CyberDac.
Oh.
It's like if Dak Faden from Magic the Gathering became a cyborg. That's where I got
I thought it was just Cyber Duck, like a duck on the internet, but then you misspelled it.
Or that. We
kind of alluded to this. Tom had the assignment to do 20% of the research. And I did my 80, and then Tom was like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah, Kenny put me in charge of like the most minimal amount of look things up work that he could have, because he knew I wasn't going to do very much. And he was right, but he didn't know how right he was.
Tom, look this up. Actually, Tom, just press this button. Actually, you don't even have to press the button. Just look at the button sometime before.
Just think about the button at
just think about the button.
I had other stuff going on.
We're going to improvise. We're going to do a choose your own adventure. You're going to pick a category, and then you're going to pick the ones you want to hear about. Because I put so much work into this that we're probably not going to be able to cover everything.
Perfect.
So, what category do you want to start with?
Let's do the one titled Kids Decks.
Yeah, so this is a mix of kids games, family games, and then also dexterity games. They had a lot of overlap, so I grouped them all together. So now, which one of these do you want to hear about?
Should we start with Flowerfall? Because I've actually played this one.
Ah, okay. Yeah, let's start with it.
Flowerfall is Carl Chudik's best game. Even I can't actually
We've talked about Flowerfall on the cast before. I think it was on the Carl Chudik episode.
Oh, shit.
But yeah,
skip. You gotta skip it. All right, moving on. I'm kidding.
No.
I mean, Flowerfall it's a fascinating design from one of the most intriguing designers in the field. The guy has a very unique way of creating complex card games and making it possible to hone these incredible ideas down into a single box of cards. So it's wild that he came out with this game, which is also just a box of cards. And he was like, you know what, though? What if every single card was the Chaos Orb from Magic the Gathering? And, it's fun-ish, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept. The idea of, like, dropping cards from an elevated area onto the table and trying to aim where they fall. And again, we're not flicking the cards. We're not throwing them. We're literally just, like, releasing them from above the table.
Right.
I don't know that any other game does that, and it's well executed. Like, there's actually a game there on top of that, because it could have just been aim at this thing, you know? There's a whole area control aspect, which kind of works like the paint bucket tool on a drawing application. It's cool.
It feels almost like a Taskmaster task, where it's something that is like, it works as a game, but it's absurd enough that it just makes everyone feel kind of silly and dumb. You know, the thing that I think is frustrating about this is that it is a dexterity game that doesn't really reward your dexterous nature, which in a certain sense makes it very approachable for younger players. But in another sense, I think has like a very low cap on the ceiling for this game.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Because just like compared to something like Flick 'em Up or any game where you're like, flinging discs across something, or pool, or anything where you could call a dexterity game in other contexts, I'd be amazed if a Flowerfall tournament had consistent top performers, for example.
Oh, no, it's so random.
Yeah. Because it's like there's just way too little control over the outcome of the cards. It just ends up becoming like a silly activity for everyone to feel kind of goofy with.
Shall we move on?
Sure. Well, I've got this. There's this other game in here called Pingo Pingo.
Pingo Pingo. So let's start with the theme of Pingo Pingo. You are pirates that have landed on the island of Pingo Pingo, and the rest of your crew has been executed by a group of sentient tribal penguins, and you are the last survivors who are trying to get treasure and bring it back to your ship before also getting killed. Remind you, this is a family game. So you have to follow the rules of the penguin tribe. And what ultimately plays out mechanically is similar to, if you ever watched the episode of Community, I think it was called like Fistful of Bullets. It's basically a VHS game. There was this very brief time where they tried to make VHS video games a thing. Well, Pingo Pingo is the same idea. You have like an audio track. At different times, you're going to get different audio cues where you have to perform a certain action before you hear the penguin go Pingo Pingo. If you don't perform the action, you fail and you don't get the treasure that you're trying to get.
Is it almost like Bop It?
It's a little, it's more involved than Bop It in terms of the things you have to do, and you don't do them as frequently, but it's similar idea. There's like a toy gun that comes with the thing, and there's some of the actions where you have to grab the gun first and fire it, and so people are like going for the gun. I mean, it's kind of insane. It's more of a toy than a board game, I feel like, but it's somewhere in between the two.
What's this other one you have here? It's called Snifty Snakes. I like that name a lot.
Snifty Snakes. You should definitely look up pictures of Snifty Snakes. You functionally wear a nose mask that is an extended phallic snake coming out of your nose, and you need to manipulate things on the board by moving your face around so that the snake rubs against and grabs the things on the table. It definitely has that comedic element of like, you look like an idiot while you're doing it, and I think that's intentional. This game's from 1975, by the way.
You know what this is reminding me of? I might be interested to check this one out, but something just came back to me. It awakened an old memory. Yeah, this game looks crazy, the masks. So in high school, my teacher suddenly brought out this game called Tuba Ruba. Have you ever heard of it?
No, what's that?
It's another game from like the 70s where they were just on something. All that comes in the box is basically a series of plastic tubes and a marble, I think. You are supposed to wrap the tubes around one or two players and then put the marble in one end, and the one or two players need to then basically contort themselves in order to get the marble to the other end of the tubes.
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty silly, very, like, obviously extremely light game, but full body dexterity.
Yeah, that's a cool system.
The best part is that it combines well with itself. So if you get two copies of Tuba Ruba, it's like twice as
Tuba
silly
Ruba
and like
Deluxe.
Yeah, double Ruba. I don't think this is still in print, weirdly enough, and like it seems like, I feel like if this were to come out now, it would like do numbers in a way.
Yeah, we need the Restoration Games edition. We need the CMYK Restoration Games collab.
CMYK Tubaruba, yeah.
Yeah.
That one's a really fun dexterity game. If you can ever find a copy at your local, like, you know, old person garage sale. Was a delightful experience in high school, and I would play it again happily.
Nice. What category you want to jump to?
Let's just talk about mech, which I assume stands for mechanics.
Yeah, mechanisms. Yeah.
You've got Millennium Blades, which I have played, and Tragedy Looper, which I've also played. And what's kind of funny to me about that is that they both have anime characters on the box art.
Yeah, so the weirdest thing mechanically is that there's anime.
Right.
You're not super hot on either of these, although we did talk about Millennium Blades recently, and you said you need to give it another chance.
Yeah, I think what may have gone wrong with Millennium Blades, because it's been so long since I've played it, is that the real-time element was potentially discarded, and so I just felt like I didn't really understand the appeal. You describing it made me wonder if like I was sort of missing out on something by playing it that way.
I think Millennium Blades is nigh unplayable as a turn-based game. Because it would last like 4 hours and it just wouldn't be fun. The whole point is that you're making mistakes and you're kind of scrambling. For the listeners, Millennium Blades is a CCG simulator, but not CCG as in you're playing an actual card game, but like you are playing the game of opening packs and manipulating the secondary market and making collections of cards that match together.
Yeah, it's metatextual, so you're playing a character who is playing Magic the Gathering.
Like yeah, you're like playing Yu-Gi in like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like it's like a card battle anime. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of very kitschy, kind of on the nose parody cards too. Like it's very much a game made by fans of anime, fans of collectible card games. Every pop culture nerd reference is in there. It's kind of like Weird Al. If you take the jokes at face value, they're cringe. But if you embrace that it's intentionally being campy, then it's a hoot. Because the whole game is camp, right? It's this metatextual. For example, you use paper money to buy and sell cards. And again, this is happening real time. But instead of using single bills, the game instructs you to create wads of bills tied together with like a sticker, so that every time you pay $1, you're actually paying a huge stack of singles all together, which signifies how much money people spend on these card games, right? It's like when you're opening a pack, you're basically opening a bunch of packs to get the one rare that you really need. And that's what you're representing with these wads of cash that you're throwing around. There's a lot of little like nice touches like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a real-time game where you're buying and selling cards and opening booster packs in this pretend collectible card game. And then you don't even play the card game. You play the beats of a tournament of the game in a kind of like almost fantasy realms, kind of build a combo of cards that give you the maximum score. And there are ways to manipulate or disrupt your opponent's fantasy realms scorey thingy as well.
It plays in that sense a lot like baseball highlights or...
Yes, it's a lot like baseball highlights or like Blood Bowl Team Manager, if anyone's played either of those.
Right.
I don't think Millennium Blades is a fair game. There's definitely so much just luck of what you get and how you put it together, but it's a fun game, and it is unlike anything out there.
We were talking about how it literally is Magic Fest in a box for our Magic fans who've maybe gone to Magic Fest. I think it encapsulates the experience of like if you could almost throw yourself back to the 90s and like try and put yourself in the mindset of someone who doesn't have the internet, you're just running around at vendor booths trying to buy booster packs and find the best cards you can to slap in your deck last minute at some sort of low stakes tournament. That's the vibe. And it's cool for that. I
think it's kind of impressive how well it executes on its beats, on its premise, especially given how ambitious it is. It's a shock that it works.
So, and then the other one you have here is Tragedy Looper. That's the only other one I've played. What's really fascinating about Tragedy Looper is I think my interest in it was piqued by the Dice Tower, but I think that they said that this game made them like want to cry at one point, and that's what made me go like, whoa, what the hell is going on with this? And now I find it really kind of bizarre that they felt that way, but I think what they were alluding to is that the game puts you in a very stressful state. It's essentially trying to be kind of like almost like Persona or one of those like anime social credit, social link type of games where like the more interactions you have with someone, almost like in The Sims or something,
like
right?
Danganronpa. Yeah, it's like...
Yeah. You're trying to build up your rapport with particular characters, and you need to get characters to like you to a certain degree and convince them to move to certain locations, because if you don't basically solve a sort of puzzle, someone will die. And you can't let that happen. So you end up going back in time after someone dies and then like trying to prevent whatever happened that killed them.
Yeah, it's like Time Stories meets a dating sim.
Yeah, exactly. And what's unfortunate, what's tragic, shall we say, about this game for me was that like I owned it for a while and I only ever played it twice. This is a game that demands a lot out of the owner of the box. They need to find like 2 to 3 hardcore and willing, I think even ideally like 3 other people that are like willing to embrace something and go hardcore at experiencing this, almost like a D&D campaign. Because it does need someone to take on an almost a dungeon master role, and then I think it works best with all 3 players, and I think the full gamut of player powers at work, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And it even makes it slightly more challenging with like 3 other players. If it's just head to head, it's like almost too easy sometimes because people just can't fuck things up for you.
I think we played this pretty early on too. Like we weren't in our final forms, so.
Yeah, that's
like,
the other thing.
I almost can't even judge this game.
I think what the Dice Tower folks said that made them cry about this was that it felt so tragic to fail so often to figure out how to stop these anime girls' deaths.
So tragedy to loop these.
Yeah. They were just like, no, Sakura. Like, what am I fighting for? Like, that's what they were like.
I just imagine Tom Vassell like, Sakura, no. My fedora kept falling off as I was running towards you with my arms behind me to increase my aerodynamics.
Senpai, I failed you.
It's a fun one that I'd like to potentially revisit, ideally with someone who already knows how to handle being the looper or whatever it's called, and like,
yeah,
and I can just try and play at the puzzles of it. I think it would probably work best as a computer game, and I think it was very ambitiously trying to encapsulate that style of computer game.
I really think it would have been better as a solo computer game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just go play Steins Gate, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell people. So you've got a couple on here where the titles caught my eye.
So You've Been Eaten.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So You've Been Eaten. I see you've highlighted that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about this game, to be honest. I've heard mixed reviews, but I think the thing that's really interesting is that this is a 0 to 2 player game.
0.
Yes. This game has rules so that both sides can be an AI and play against each other. And you just play it out.
That's funny.
It's kind of one of those, like, what's the saying? Like, they didn't stop to think, should they? Like, I think it's fascinating as like a board game exercise, though, to have like a self-running game.
Yeah, I'd really like to try it at the 0 player count. It is funny that on Board Game Geek it says it's 1 to 2, but when you scroll down to the description, it says, note, this is a game for 0 to 2 players.
Yeah.
The Board Game Geek database does not allow a player count of 0.
Yeah, like Board Game Geek doesn't even have those parameters.
This one's really new. New game alert.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was that new.
2022. Oops.
Okay.
You violated the contract of the podcast, Kenny.
Fire me.
Do you know what you've done?
I hear them with their pitchforks outside of my window.
We need to go back in time and prevent this tragedy from occurring.
All right, what do you want to do next?
So you've got No Limit Texas Dreidel. The fuck is that?
It's literally you spin a dreidel and it shows you different values, and then you, based on what you have, it's like Texas Hold'em with dreidels. It's exactly what you think it would be.
Sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah, I kind of want to try this
one.
Yeah.
Dude, I like that the Board Game Geek description says the standard edition is for 2 to 4 players, but the deluxe edition has enough dreidels for 8 players.
Yeah.
I need the deluxe edition stat.
Yeah.
This seems hard to find.
Yeah, it was like a one and done.
And it's so old. It's like it predates Kickstarter. It's like it wasn't even a Kickstarter joke.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only $20 on eBay. We got to buy it before the episode comes out, so that
the demand jumps up. Yeah. All right. What do you want to do next?
Well, what's Trick of the Rails?
This one might not be as weird as some of the others, but I had to put it on for you, my little Tom. This is a Hisashi Hayashi design, which is a trick-taking 18xx game. It's a trick-taking route-building Rails game. You do tricks, And then you get to invest in different routes and, build up their economy. And then you try to sell and buy stock in them, which sounds right up your alley, in my opinion.
Yep. You know what? I'm just adding it to my want to playlist right now, I guess. Hisashi Hayashi, he's got some interesting designs. Yeah.
Shall we move on to theme?
One of which you have listed is Cosmic Frog.
Mm-hmm. We played Cosmic Frog. I don't think we need to go too much into it.
I was going to say, I wasn't super into it.
I mean, I still stand by that the theme is amazing. The game, I really enjoyed it, but it's not one I would come back to. But I love this theme, just how out there it is. You're these mile-high frogs that are putting shards of planets in their gullet and pushing them in because we have a sun inside of our belly that gets powered by the shards. And then you can get punched into other dimensions. You get punched so hard, you go off the board. What a theme. Yeah,
the theme's fucking awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the theme and the art. The art's amazing. Brilliant stuff. But the actual gameplay was why am I doing this? I don't know. It didn't come home for me. Now, most of the rest of these I have not done. There was a word here that stood out to me, and I will let our listeners judge me all they want. But Consenticle is apparently the name of a game.
Yep, Consenticle. So this is a 2-player cooperative game in the vein of And Then We Held Hands or something like that.
All right.
And one player plays a human, the other player plays a giant tentacled alien. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to work together, building trust to have sexual encounters with each other. But really, it's an abstracted way of talking about consent in relationships, establishing boundaries while, having respect and building intimacy with each other. It's very much treated in a humoristic way. I haven't played it. I skimmed the rules and I did a little bit of looking into it, and it seems really interesting.
It's really funny because I know of this concept, I'll admit, Consenticles, because it's been a meme for a minute that, tentacle hentai, right? It's kind of what it's alluding to. But most of that is non-consensual, shall we say. Most of the content.
Yeah, it's flipping it on its head, basically.
So I don't know if you knew this, but there's a subreddit called Consenticles. It's tentacle hentai with explicit
I didn't know this.
Have consenting characters, right? So
look at
I don't
you,
know
Tom.
which came first.
You said you didn't do any research for this episode.
This is the one I looked up. I don't know how I originally came across it. There's no way of knowing how I originally came across that subreddit. Kenny, don't ask me.
I was giving you an out. Just then.
This is all part of the research for the episode. There was nothing else interesting about it for me. This one, I mean, it sounds wild that it's a game. It's actually crazy that it's as old as it is.
2014.
We said 2 different numbers. I'm very curious, just based on your description, to try it out, because I like the idea of exploring those themes through gameplay. I wonder about that.
I think it does so tastefully from what I've seen. Again, we'd have to play it.
I am pleasantly surprised, I suppose, that it is not just trying to be another sort of tentacle bento, haha, tee-hee. Isn't it funny that anime girls are in our game?
It's definitely treating its subject matter, I would say, with a certain level of lightheartedness, while also being respectful and actually serious about its topic. So,
yeah, it's serious about its subject matter, even if the premise itself is not all that serious.
Yep.
Now, I want to know everything that you know about these next 2 games, because I see them, and I've actually seen them come up on geek lists that have been very popular recently. So I'm very heavily intrigued at this point about Mushroom Eaters and Cave Evil, which I understand are probably pretty different games, but they're both by this same design collective called Blast City Games. Is that right?
Yep. Nate Hayden is the lead designer. Blast City is this kind of independent publisher. They only do single print runs of games. And so unless it gets really, really popular, in which case they do a reprint, but usually even then, these games go for hundreds of dollars. Mushroom Eaters is like a psychedelic trip that looks like Brian Chippendale art, if you're familiar with like Lightning Bolt, where the whole board is just covered in rainbow colors. And the board actually develops in a way where it gets more and more trippy, more and more psychedelic as you play. And there's actually like these, like you can use these 3D glasses to kind of see these emergent things come out as you're building the board. Cave Evil is the opposite. Cave Evil is like black and white, really grim, dark, kind of, you know, when you see like the goth kid shade in an entire piece of paper and do like a beautiful drawing of like a skeleton, but like more of the page is pencil than of the like original paper that was behind it. Yeah, they're painting
with the negative space.
Exactly. Like you can tell because the side of their palm is like completely silver from rubbing against it. That's what this board looks like. It's just extremely stark, dark, kind of emphasized art. Both of these games were extremely like interactive, punishing, sometimes even unfair, but they're just kind of these like fascinating thematic beats that have a ton of personality. I have played neither of them, and I don't know the rules for either of them either. I would definitely be interested if anyone has a copy. If you own this
and know how to play it, reach out to us at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. We'll travel to your town.
I don't even know that there's like a tabletop mod. Like that's how hard it is to play.
No, yeah, these it's wild because there was someone who put this like pretty high up. I think Cave Evil in particular, they put really high up on a list of games that I think like mostly agreed with their taste or takes, you know? Like even if I didn't think the game itself should have been ranked where it was, I was just like, respect for putting this in your top 100. Yep. And then Cave Evil and Mushroom Eaters, I think, were on this person's list, and I was like, "What am I missing out on?" Yeah, I want to find this sometime and try it out.
Very cool looking game.
Is there another game in this category that you wanted to get at?
We're kind of getting at the end of the hour here. I think probably what I'll do is I'll post a list somewhere, and folks can look up the other games that we have.
We'll have to put this geek list out, maybe.
Yeah, a few shout outs just to designers specifically that I feel like it would be an insult not to mention them. Like Friedman Fries, like 80% of what Friedman Fries does is experimental. It just happens to be that he kind of hit it off with Power Grid and since then has had a few more successes. But like he's always kind of like setting the bar and kind of pushing into new territory that people haven't explored, sometimes successfully and sometimes not.
People sort of under-realize how much of a mad scientist he really is trying to be.
One that really stands out is Fish Flupen Frikadellen, which I hope I'm pronouncing right.
Fish Flupen Frikadellen.
Yeah, so this is a game where you're manipulating a market that plays up to 5 players, where you're kind of like going around to these different areas of the market and buying and selling. But the twist is that if you have 3 copies of this game, you set them up on 3 tables, and you can actually exit and enter another table to play at that particular table's market. And each market is developed randomly, is set up randomly at the beginning of the game. And I'm not talking about it's a mega game with 15 players. It's literally 3 games going on at the same time where at any moment you can exit one game, join the other game. And you don't necessarily have to have 5 people at each game. You're not swapping. The other designer I really want to highlight is Emma Bell Holland. You know, we talk about her train games, but also she's really made some out there, especially just anything Hollandspiel, like her publishing house. Like they are really kind of pushing the boundaries of what games mean, as well as like the mechanisms they have. City of Six Moons we've talked about a few times. You know, solo experience where you're trying to figure out the rules, and that's a big part of the game. The other one is Islet. Islet is it's a shoelace game. So you have a grid with holes in it, and you're trying to retain area. Like basically, it's an area control game where you're creating borders by threading these shoelaces through the holes on the board. So it's played in hands with the, you know, passing the board between the players, and you're actually putting these threads into the board, which I think is fascinating.
That one sounds cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, Amabel skeeted recently that this is probably never going to get a reprint, or at least not anytime soon, because of the tariffs and just how things are right now. But I know this is one that's also very much sought after. That is kind of like a fascinating exploration of what the physical structure of a board game can be.
I'll say this though, yes, it probably won't be like in an official print anytime soon. It looks extremely easy to print and play if you have anyone with a laser cutter in your life.
Yeah. So maybe that's the approach, you know.
From what little I know about Amabel, she would probably encourage you to play it that way if you can.
Maybe what you do is you proxy a copy and then you donate to Amabel's Patreon.
Yeah, bam.
There are so many games on this list. We definitely weren't getting around to all of them, but I feel like we covered a good section, and I'll post the rest of it too. So
I feel like despite my lack of ambition, I managed to contribute at least a little bit of thoughts to. Yeah,
I think you did a good job. You know what, Tom? I give you a 7 out of 10. Good job.
Yes. Someone hire this man. Someone at IGN hire this man.
You want to lead us out?
That's going to do it this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you like what we're doing and you want to see more of it happen, consider subscribing to us on Patreon. 100% not required. We're not quitting our day jobs anytime soon, but we love seeing the support, and you'll get some immediate access to bonus content over there. And as well, you can join us on Discord by becoming a member and just chat us up. We'd love to see you there. Thank you especially to Michael, Tyler, Devon, and Josh, the Boise RainBeaus, for your awesome segue music. And thank you to Bonehouse for letting us use your song Rot as our opening theme.
If you're loving the cast, share it with a friend, or on Reddit, or on BGG. If you do, let us know. We'll send you something nice. You can reach out to us directly. I don't know why I'm making it a mystery. We'll send you the Shelf Stable micro badge. You can also reach out to us directly at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All of this and more available in the show notes. Tom, what are we doing?
Kenny, next week, let's talk about the 5 games that you're taking with you in a doomsday scenario. This has nothing to do with the podcast 5 Games for Doomsday, but, I welcome a rivalry.
Let's do it.
There you go. Next week. Bye.